Hello and welcome to the Park Life Podcast. My name is Mike. I'm a travel agent that specializes in all things Disney. This is chapter 60 of the Park Life Podcast, and this is chapter 7 of our ongoing series, The History of Walt Disney World. Today's chapter 7, Main Street, USA. Now, I'll share some details around Main Street, USA. Some of them may be more commonly known than others, but in the end, it shows a lot of the imagination that Walt himself had and the Imagineers and the preservation of magic from the start of your entrance to the park all the way up to the castle. So, first, we'll start with the forced perspective. I think a lot of people hear that there's forced perspective, and you probably have a general sense of what it means. It typically basically means that they designed the structures so that they seem larger in life than they actually are. The buildings were intentionally built with smaller windows and floors as they go down Main Street to create the illusion that the street is taller and grander. And I think they really do a fabulous job. When you really think about the fact that there's such just a facade above the first floor where the restaurants and shops are along Main Street, it really does feel like a two-story structure from the start to the end of Main Street. Next, and this is one that I don't think I knew about, and maybe it's partly because I just didn't pay attention, honestly. But there are lamps down Main Street from the front hub all the way to the center hub in front of the castle that light up at night. That part I think we all know. If you've been there at nighttime, you see them. However, the lamps at the very beginning of the park, the front hub by the confectionery, those lamps are actually gas lamps. And as you progress down Main Street, they turn to electrical lamps. This was done specifically to help illustrate the progress of technology through the history of our country. Pretty cool. Now, some people that knew about that believed that the gas lamps at the front of the park were designed after the lamps in Disneyland in California. While that would be a logical assumption, that's not the case. Those gas lamps are actually replicas of the first ever gas lamps in America, 1817 in Baltimore. Pretty cool little nugget of history there. The next one I think shows unbelievable foresight and genius of Walt Disney himself. The sidewalks down Main Street are a reddish color. Now, there are two reasons behind that. The first one that most people may hear about is that, and it's true, is that Walt wanted the guests to feel like he had rolled out the red carpet, welcoming them into his park. Pretty amazing in the 1960s, while Walt was still alive, that was a part of the design that he had implemented that he never got to see to fruition, but it happened. The second reason, and maybe the most important one, Walt himself consulted with the Kodak company, who at the time was by far and away the leader in photography technology. Walt asked them specifically what color of concrete would absorb the most sunlight, preventing the guests from having to squint in that hot, blazing summer sun in Florida, so that their photos would be as magical as possible. That's how it all started. Kodak said red would be the best color to put down to help absorb the sunlight, not have it reflect, and therefore your guest photo experiences would be that much more enhanced. Pretty cool. Did you know Main Street itself, from the front hub to the castle, actually slopes upward ever so slightly? Again, this was designed specifically by Walt himself with two reasons in mind. First, knowing that when the park opens, guests are excited and they want to flood through and get to the rides and attractions. It's subtle, but the thought behind that was the slight ramping upward would help slow people slightly from sprinting down Main Street. The second reason, probably the more prevalent one, was Walt knew that at the end of a park day, the guests would be tired, physically exhausted, and so being able to slightly walk downhill down Main Street to the exit would make it that much easier for the guests as they exited the park. Pretty amazing, amazing to me, the foresight that Walt had back in the 1960s. And to this day, it still floors me that he never got to step foot inside this park. You know what the train? Sorry, about the fire station in the main hub up at the very front of the park. When you walk through the turnstiles, you go underneath the train station on the left or the right. On the left side, if you go around the hub towards the left corner, there's a fire station. There's also just to the right of that the gate that opens up, and that's where the parade departs at the end of Festival Fantasy Parade. The fire station that's there is fire station number 71, specifically numbered because that was the year that the Magic Kingdom opened up in Walt Disney World, Florida. Sights, sounds are all part of the sensory experience of Walt Disney World, but so are these smells, that sense. Disney has piped in, if you will, or scented, released scents of vanilla and popcorn smells down Main Street to enhance the welcoming, classic feel of a small town. Just a little tiny nugget of something that Disney does and Walt himself wanted to do to provide the guest that small town feel, enhancing the sensory experience. Now, I know I've talked about this one before, so if you've heard me in the past, you'll know about this one. But as you go down Main Street, the buildings on either side, at the top of the buildings, they have American flags. They have quote unquote American flags. They're actually fake American flags, done so intentionally by Disney. They're not official flags. They have an incorrect number of stars and or stripes on each flag, intentionally done so that it avoids United States flag code, allowing those flags to remain illuminated and displayed day and night. Does not require them to retrieve the flags at night or during inclement weather, whatever the case may be. You can imagine the challenge it would take for Disney to have to get people up on top of the buildings and remove, I don't know, 6 to 8 flags on each side of Main Street as you walk down Main Street. So, again, a little nugget foresight on Disney's part to be able to do something to provide that patriotic feel, but without having to follow code flag and allowing them to stay illuminated and flying in their glory. Now, can't say the American flags without talking about this. If you've never seen this, never been down there to experience it, I would probably tell you this might be something that you should put at the top of your must do list at least one time. The first time I ever experienced it was the last time that it was going to be a one and done. It is now an every time we're at Magic Kingdom we experience this. As a matter of fact, we were there in October of 2020, just a few months after the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World reopened from the COVID closures. My family sat at the front hub of Main Street an hour before this was to take place. As we got closer and closer, there was no activity, nothing happening. Time came, the time went, we went and asked a cast member, and they said we have not restarted that uh, ceremony. So we were highly disappointed. That's the first time in a long time that I've not experienced this, and that is the flag retreat. So in the main hub, right past the train station, is a grand flag pole where the American flag is hoisted and flies daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time every single day, weather permitting. I should reference they're not going to risk anybody's health or safety, but every single day at 5 p.m. they have a flag retreat ceremony. A U.S. veteran, likely a guest, but occasionally could be a staff member, is honored to lead a ceremony that lowers the American flag. They have the Dapper Dans there to sing. They have their small band fleet that's there that plays. It's an amazing experience. They do the Pledge of Allegiance, they sing the national anthem, they sing God Bless America. They retrieve the flag down, they go through the process of folding it up, and then they march about halfway down Main Street and then take a right to one of the small alleys. And then at that point, this is where the hair on my arms really stands up. Cast members that are all in the area, they all line up one by one, thanking that service member or members for their service. The family members of that veteran get to pose for pictures. It's such a cool experience. And again, I would highly recommend, if you've never seen or done it, that you do it. The next thing on Main Street that is traditional, along with the flagger sheet, has been there since opening day, October 1st, 1971, and that is the Dapper Dans. If you don't know what the Dapper Dans are, they're an iconic barbershop quartet that sings a cappella throughout the Main Street strip. At times they'll be stationary standing on Main Street singing. Sometimes they'll be on the trolley car singing that goes down Main Street and circles back to the front of the park. A very special magical treat that Disney provides and has provided now for nearly 54 years. Incredible. Is my math right? Yes, 54 years. Um, so something to enjoy. They're comical. They have some jokes. Uh, Dad jokes, my favorites. And they're very talented singers. The last two things on Main Street that I want to call out, and I'm sure we could go on and on about other things like Casey's Corner, the piano player that's at Casey's Corner. I mentioned the confectionery, the popcorn is incredible, the barber shop that's there that a lot of people will take their little tykes for their very first haircut. A lot of wonderful things down Main Street. We could talk for probably hours on all of those things. But I'm going to wrap up today's session with these last two items. At the front of the park in the front hub, past the Main Street train station, is the Sharing the Magic statue. That is a statue that has Roy Disney, Walt's brother, and Minnie Mouse. And then as you get through Main Street to the main hub in front of the castle, you have the Partners statue, and that has Walt Disney himself and Mickey Mouse. Pretty amazing bookend statues on either side of Main Street, USA, that allows you to pay tribute to the brilliance of Walt Disney himself. And let's not forget the amazing work that his brother Roy put in after Walt's death that made sure that the Magic Kingdom did come to fruition. You have to remember that was Walt's dream. He passed away years before it completed. So Roy came out of retirement and made sure that that project was finished from start to end. Gosh, there's one other thought I have. This is kind of outside of the history of Main Street USA, and it really is more about the Walt Disney Cruise Line Company. But I think this is pretty amazing. If you've been to Walt Disney World, to the Magic Kingdom, you've walked down Main Street, uh, up and back multiple times, I'm sure. If you picked up one of Disney's cruise ships and laid it on the Main Street, from one end of the ship to the other, it would touch train station, it would touch the stage of the castle. Just kind of shows you the grand size of not only the cruise ships, but of Main Street USA as well. I can't think of a better way to kick off the stay in a Magic Kingdom park trip, whether it's a local going in for a single day or a family on a 4, 5, 6 day vacation, or gosh, some of our friends from across the pond that come for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. I know for me, I've been dozens and dozens and dozens of times. It doesn't change the fact that when I walk through underneath the train station, all the feels hit. And as you circle around that first hub and you get that view of Cinderella's castle, it just takes you to a different place in time. And Main Street USA is the lead character in the role that is the Magic Kingdom. That's it for today's chapter 7 of the history of Walt Disney World. If you have any suggestions of topics you'd like to hear about in the history of Walt Disney World, please share them in the comments. I'd love to tackle those as well. But I will be back again next week with the next chapter. Not going to tell you what it is yet. You'll have to come back and join us. Again, my name is Mike. I'm a travel agent that specializes in all things Disney. You can find these podcasts on the Park Life Podcast YouTube channel or on the Park Life Podcast Spotify channel on Mondays at about 5 a.m. Eastern, We also do a Park Life Live on the YouTube channel on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can also catch those live uh, Park Life Live chats Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on my TikTok channel, which is Mike_Disney Travel. You can also find me on Instagram at Mike_Disney Travel or at Facebook at Mike's Magical World Vacations. That's a wrap for today. I appreciate your time. Look forward to talking to you again next week. Have a great day. Remember, it is a great day to be alive. Go out and enjoy it. Goodbye, everybody.